Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is Go Again, a fabulous video cast covering the trading card game Flesh and Blood. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Hello everyone, welcome to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. I'm Andrew with you here as always. Thank you very much for tuning in and joining me today. So 8 days ago or so, last weekend, we had the Blitz into 2021 event held by Mighty Ape Games over in New Zealand. Really kind of the first, big competitive, at least highly publicized competitive event that we had this year, and out of that came some very, very interesting results. As you guys know, we already talked about it a bit, but Wizard took 5 of the top 8 slots, with Thea, Bravo, and Viscerai actually pulling in the other 3. So what I want to do today, and actually we're going to break this up into a 2-part series. What I want to do today is go through those deck lists, but I do want to go in detail, which is why I'm breaking it up. So in the first video, we're going to go through the non-Wizard decks, again, Thea, Bravo, and Viscerai, and we're going to spend little time going in on that Viscerai Runeblade deck, because I think that surprised me. And then of course in the second video we'll look at the 4 wizard lists that we do have, and instead of deep diving on each one, I'm actually going to do kind of a comparison and look at the differences in them, because I think that's interesting to look. So thanks for joining me as we go through these lists. Again, a huge congrats to all the players who did make it. We will give credit of each deck obviously as we go through, because that's the right thing to do. And huge thanks again to David Grieg of Mighty Ape Games, taking the time to get this compiled and put up for the community to enjoy. That was a really nice move. So thank you, man. So thanks for joining me today. Let's get into this. Alright folks, so thanks for joining me for the first episode in this, where we're going to look at the 3 non-wizard decks. Now I do want to note going into this, of course, that remember that we're looking at lists, and to get these lists belong to people, and it's really nice of them to be willing to share it and be willing to post it. So make sure that credit is given where credit is due. But in addition, remember that lists are only lists, and a list alone doesn't get you to a top 8 of an event like that, right? I mean, there's obvious skill involved in this, and yes, you certainly have to have the tech available to you, but you also have to know how to use that tech, right? These guys built the decks, they knew how to use what they were going to use. So just make sure to keep that in mind when we're going through that, that there's more to this than just simply copying and putting together. You also have to know kind of how it goes together and why. So again, want to thank the gentleman for posting these lists. So the one I want to start with first, let's go ahead and start with Dorinthea, just because I have the most familiarity with that. So this list we're showing now is by Reagan Herbert, and he finished in the top 8. So Dorinthea list, right? Let's just run down it real quick. So we've got E-Strike, Featherwalkers 1, Pitch, Iron Song Response, Out for Blood, Razor Reflex, Route, there's 1 route in there, the Sharpened Steel, Sigil Solace, Snatch, great, I love Snatch in a warrior deck, 2 Spoils of War, 2 Steel Braid's Premises, and 2 Red Warrior Valor. We then have Iron Song Determination, no surprise there, Singing Steel Blade, and 1 Twinning Blade. He is running an Energy Potion, 2 Blue Flock of the Feather Walkers, Glint the Quicksilver ×2. He's got the Heart. Hit and Run ×2 on the Blue Pitch Hit and Run. Blue Steel Blade Shunt, that's his Defense React in there. And then Blue Warrior's Valor, obviously 2 copies of those. So just running down this list, I think again, in Flesh and Blood, a lot of the stuff kind of lends to itself, build the stuff. But there's a couple things in here I wanted to specifically call out, as like obviously like Iron Song Determination and stuff like that, like duh, right? But there's a couple really interesting includes in here, the first one I mentioned, Snatch. I really like Snatch in Warrior. I've talked about that before on here. It works really well because there's a lot of times in Warrior where you have to spend your resources to get your Dawnblade to hit, and sometimes you just don't have the resource left over. And throwing a Snatch out there, sometimes it can help you get the card. It'll help you draw. Yeah, it'll end your round, but it'll get you a card that you can then arsenal. So I really like that. I think that's a really good include. Easter eggs speak for themselves there. Now there is one call. So he's running 2 Razor Reflex for 1 pitch. Now we all know Razor Reflex is a really good card, but I think a lot of times we don't see that in Thea because you could run Stroke of Foresight or something like that. And I'm wondering if I'm thinking that his Razor Reflex was simply because, remember, a lot of the Dorinthea attack reacts do have reprise, so they only get the bonus if your opponent has defended. And usually it's if they've played a card from hand, do whatever on that's how reprise works. And if they don't do it, you don't get the bonus. So I'm thinking he went with Razor Reflex here just to be able to push the damage regardless. The drawback of Razor Reflex is it defends for 2, whereas a lot of the Warrior-specific cards will defend for 3. So it's kind of a push-pull there. 1 copy of Route, I think that single copies... I actually don't usually run Route. Route's huge. But that 2-pitch I find to be difficult sometimes. But obviously it worked for him. Now, as far as Valor goes, I think... he's running the 1-pitch and the 3-pitch versions. He's not running the 2-pitch version. I think that's a very good call. I think with Spoils of War popping up, I think that Spoils of War is just good, right? So it used to be that you'd run all the Valors just because you kind of needed them. So I don't think he needs them here. So I think that was a really good call. Twinning Blade is also a one of here. I think that's probably the right call. The heart, I don't own a heart, obviously, so I can't speak to having any experience with that. The one thing that is interesting on here is he's running the only hit and run he's running is the 3-pitch, and the 3-pitch the 3-pitch is a great one because it gives you, again, remember with Thea you need your basic Thea turn is pitch 3, swing, boost, swing. That's basically what or boost, swing, boost, or boost, swing, swing, or whatever it may be. So I think the 3-pitch is perfectly fine there. There isn't I could see running the 1-pitch, but if he doesn't have room for it, he doesn't have room for it. And then the Flock of the Featherwalkers I think is really cool. It's more of a next turn setup type of deal. But I think that's a really cool tech. That's not we've seen that in other things. That's not unique there, but I think the inclusion of that and really learning how to play that, I think did help a lot here. I would have loved to see some games played and how he executed with it, but I think that this is a really, obviously it got him where he is. It's a strong list, but I think there's a lot of practice here that he would need to kind of get the push-pull of how it goes. Now, as far as Steelblade Shunt for the defend react, so that one is, that's basically so at this point, it's a defend react. You have to pay for it, and it pings the 1 on the weapon. So I think it's more of I want to have the pitch available. It's defending obviously for less, but it does give that damage on the weapon attack. Excuse me. So a lot of times I've actually run that as the 2. I've run that kind of in my 2-pitch slot. But it's the same logic really here with the 3-pitch. You make a little bit of the defend value sacrifice to kind of be a little more utility in your deck. So I think it's really strong here. So nicely done, sir. Again, thank you very much for sharing this list with us. So, all right. Moving on now to let's go ahead and do the Viscerai list, which it's very interesting. So this was also a top 8 list, and then we'll finish with the top 4. So we have Reaping Blade. I don't think that surprises anybody. Reaping Blade is just way better, at least from me as an experienced, way better. So what we have is 2 chains of, so there's all one pitch chains of eminence, Chanting Melody times 2, Fate Foreseen times 2, Mordred Tide times 2, Read the Runes. And actually looking at this, the entire list is all 2s, so I'll stop saying 2s. Read the Runes, Reduce to Rune Chant, Sigil of Solace, Sink Below, and Sun Kiss. Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath, or Birthday Cake, as it's so affectionately called. Read the Runes, Reduce to Rune Chant, Remembrance, and then Rune Blood Barrier. Those are all the 2-pitch. And then Become the Arknight, Oath the Arknight, Read the Runes, Reduce to Rune Chant, Sink Below, and Whisper of the Oracle. So there's obviously a lot going on here, especially for someone like me who does not have a lot of reps with Runeblade. But I think the thing that strikes me when I look at this is, and I think this is a really smart way to build this, it doesn't seem to be overly combo heavy. Right? I mean, obviously there's a lot of setup stuff you have to do to get your runes out, and the sequencing, like, I'm sure that this guy had to practice a ton with this, because the sequencing of Runeblade in of itself, I think, is pretty high. And there's certainly some, sequencing type stuff he wants to pull off here. Again, this is another one of those things where I'd love to actually see the guy play the games, to kind of see how he makes everything fit in with each other, and just kind of how he sequences and makes it work. But I do like the fact that, right, I've always been not too high of a combo guy, because it sometimes becomes hard to get your combos to pop off. So this deck seems very sequence oriented, of course, but I don't think it's overly combo heavy, which is probably why he was able to kind of overall be more consistent with it, right? I mean, combos tend to explode, kind of basic combos, they explode when they work and they fizzle when they don't. So the fact that he was able to be consistent and do what he needed to do, and was able to survive while he did it, I think speaks really well. Right, and to kind of that end, what I was talking about is not combo heavy, right? You see Sun Kiss is in there, right? I mean, Sun Kiss is in there clearly in this case just to be a functional card, right? He's not trying to pull, the combo type stuff off where he's trying to swing for the fence with Sun Kiss, right? Because remember, that's, if you've played a card named Moonwish, you can do some other stuff, and he's not playing that other combo piece. He's really just using it as a functional card in this case. And, I think that's kind of speaks to more what I'm saying here is, I think he just built this deck to kind of survive and let him just keep putting the pressure on over and over and over and over again. Instead of trying to hit for 41 turn, he was just trying to ping for a couple and live through. And that's what it looks to me like he was trying to do in this deck. And again, I'd love to see him play it and execute it to confirm that's, what I think was happening here. But I mean, obviously it's a solid list because it got him where it was. So nicely done, sir. And, thank you very much. Oh, and I don't know that I said this is Jason Chung's list. So Jason, thank you very much for sharing this with everybody, and nicely done with your performance this last weekend. Right, so moving into the Bravo list, and remember this is top 4. This is piloted and developed and piloted by, well, actually I don't know if he developed it. I assume he did, right? He's a great player. But this is Kyle McCreath. Thank you, man, for sharing this with everybody so we can talk about it. Nicely done in your performance as well. Again, he's no secret to the Flesh and Blood community. He's been out there, name I've seen as long as I can remember, actually, in the game. So, all right, now this list does have 2 and 1s, so we'll make sure to note that. Now, first, we haven't really done this much with the others because they were kind of a no-brainer, but he is packing both weapons. So he's packing Anathos and the Sledge. And looking at this list, you can see how many 3 pitches are on here. Now, I know that we typically run more 3 pitches with Bravo for obvious reasons, but this is very, very, very 3-pitch heavy, which implies to me that he's using a lot of weapon rounds. So, do know we'd we'd had a talk with Josh, a month plus ago at this point, talking about his development of Bravo and how he was using the weapons. We talked quite a bit about Anathos versus Sledge and how they work in. I mean, I think we were all excited about Sledge, but I think Anathos is still pretty utility, so I'm sure he would switch back and forth depending on the matchup. But I'm guessing he was probably using Anathos most of the time. But there certainly are advantages to both. So we have, for the 1 pitch, we have 2 Blessing Deliverance, 2 Crippling Crush, 2 Emerging Dominance, and 2 Sigil of Solace. For the 2 pitch, we have 1 Remembrance and 2 Righteous Cleansings. And all the rest are 3 pitch. Blessing, Buckling Blow, Cartilage Crush, Choke Slam, a Cranial Crush, Crush the Weak, Debilitate, Disable. He's got a heart in there, one of them. Last Ditch Effort ×2, Showtime ×2, no surprise there. Stamp Authority, Staunch Response, also no surprise there. Towering Titan, and Unmovable. So when I look at this, I mean, it's pretty much kind of an all-star list of the Bravo stuff. I think probably, and again, I am no expert in Bravo. Obviously, this man is. You know, in terms of the art of this deck, I would guess that the art of this deck is more in the balancing of the pitches to use than it is in the individual card selection. Because, you know, a lot of the Bravo stuff is, especially if he's using it for pitching for his weapons, they become a little less. Each card becomes a little less necessary if it's going to pitch. Now, that doesn't mean you want crud in there. That's not what I'm saying. But when you're looking at this, right, if you're just trying to chalk in as much Guardian Blue as you can, you have a little more. You have a little more options here. So I think this is a really, really strong list. Now, remember just the way, and again, I'll reference in terms of the basics of how to play Guardian stuff. I want to reference you back to that video that we did with Josh, where he was talking his basic strategy. He has a very good understanding of it. But basically, it's kind of an on-turn, off-turn is what you're used to doing with Bravo in terms of if you're trying to use the big attacks, right? You kind of have to do a tectonic plating setup or whatever, and maybe you swing with Anathos or whatever when you're doing that setup with the tectonic plating. Maybe you don't. The problem in Blitz is, taking a turn off is significant. So being able to, with the pitches he has here, being able to choose to basically defend with one card, maybe two cards, still be able to get his pitches out for Anathos and then not necessarily have to worry about the Bravo thing, leaves him in a pretty good position to be very flexible. And also note, right, no secret, we're seeing a lot of the arcane damage out there having, right, you're looking, he's running the full Neuron package. If he sits down, the 3 pitches, that 3 pitch becomes 3 individual blocks, if you will, that are non-consumed, versus if you were blocking, a normal card and you had to get rid of it. So, this is an awesome list. I think that, again, watching him play would be something that I would love to do. But all we have to go here. So, last card I do want to note is he is playing Last Ditch Effort. Very interesting card, not only being a 3-pitch, but in Blitz, you can kind of run into decking if you're doing heavy defending, which that gives him kind of the ability to do that. And I think this deck, I think it's interesting in this deck because if it kind of counters what I was saying, is like if he's using so much to pitch, you're going to see a lot of those cards come back, right, versus playing them. But Last Ditch Effort fits in there, I guess, in the long run games. So it would be interesting to see how that played into his decision to include it, whether or not he used it much or whether it was just another 3-pitch in there for him. So very cool list. So, again, we didn't want to, we could spend a long time talking about all this individual stuff, but, we don't want to be here forever. And again, these guys deserve the right to talk about their decks as well. I just thought that it was very great that they shared it. I wanted to cover it and, take the learnings that we can from it. And, so thanks for joining me for this. If you guys have insight, or if any one of the gentlemen who we just covered your deck, you want to help, make anything in the comments, add anything to it, we would love to hear from you. So thank you, everyone, very much for joining me today. We'll be back with number 2, doing the Wizard List Compare, and we'll be back very shortly with that. So thanks again for joining me today. If nothing else, guys, go Commando.